Welcome to eBike 101, hosted by us here at EBT. Today we are going to be going over what to do when you get a puncture. We're going to be using the Moustache xroad 3 as our demo for this session today. The xroad 3 is one of our most popular bikes over recent years, so we thought it would be most helpful for you as we figured a share of you might be doing this exact procedure on the same bike. So other bikes that this procedure today applies to is anything that uses a mid-drive motor and uses a derailleur. So some examples of that are the Boost, the Merida Espresso bikes, the Cube Ellas, and heaps more. This is a derailleur. Each of these discs individually is a cog. The whole group is called the cassette. This is your rotor, and this is your caliper. Your brake pads are housed inside your caliper. Alright, so you've just got a puncture. If you're really prepared, you'll have a couple of essentials on you at the time. The key three things are tyre levers. You can have 2 to 3 of those. A spare tube. If you're not sure what size to purchase, just ask anybody at the bike shop. If you show them the tyre of your bike, they'll make sure to get you the right tube. And a pump. This one here is a hand pump. You can choose to have one with a gauge or without a gauge. It doesn't matter as long as you're getting some air into those tyres. These are a few extras we have with us in store today. We've got a floor pump, just because it's a bit easier to use really. And we have this blanket here. So what you may use instead of this blanket might be a jumper. And that's because we're going to flip the bike upside down, and we want to make sure not to damage any of the elements on the handlebar of the bike. So that may be your display, bells. Just don't want to get any unnecessary scratches on it. Something else you can do if you don't have a jumper handy is roll your bike along onto some grass. That will also avoid damaging your bike in any way. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove the battery from the bike. That's just going to make it easier for me to flip the bike over, just reducing that weight. Easy as that. Now we're going to flip our bike over, so make sure your kickstand is up. I'm going to go onto the drive side of the bike. That's the side with the derailleur, and I'm going to lean it on its side. Now, pretending I'm on concrete right now, I would take a blanket because we're in the shop. Otherwise I might use a jacket or a jumper. If I had a central display, I would make sure to take it off. I would lay it down. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the front wheel, and we're just going to lever it over. Now that our bike is upside down, the first thing you need to do when you get a puncture is remove the wheel. We're going to start off with the front wheel here. The xroad 3 here and a lot of bikes here have quick release skewers. So that can be identified by this lever here and what I like to call the pudding cup nut on the other side. The pudding cup. We're just going to loosen it up, and then you're going to unscrew on the other side. And then we're going to make sure so we don't lose any pieces. We're just going to screw it all back together. So there should be 2 springs in there, the skewer, and then the pudding cup. Now there's nothing holding our wheel on the front fork here, so we're just going to lift it up and it's going to slide right out. Now that you've got the wheel off your bike, you want to make sure that anytime you put the wheel down, you put the rotor side up. At one of your services, you may have heard us talk about your rotor being contaminated. That's because it's getting dirt and grime on the rotor. So we want to avoid that as much as possible. What we're going to do next is we're going to remove the cap from the valve on your tyre. The Xroad 3 has a Presta valve, so it has this extra little doohickey here, which we're just going to loosen up. And that just comes right off. If you're like me and you lose things a lot, find a good place to put these, because you don't want to lose these in the next 5 minutes. Alright, we're going to put the wheel back on the ground now.
Go.
Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to push the tyre off the rims. So I've just got the tyre in my 2 hands and I'm just pulling it away. This can be a bit difficult. You need to get a bit of elbow grease in here. Alright, now we're going to get our tyre levers out. The first thing you want to do is you want to have your valve on the ground here. You want to take one of your levers, you want to go underneath the tyre here, and we're just pulling it outside the lip of the rim, and you're just going to slide it across to the side. You're then going to take your second lever and you're going to do them both in opposite directions. Alright, your tyre is now free. Now what I'm going to do is, now that everything's nice and loose, so I'm on the opposite side of the valve. Valve is here, my hands are here. Everything's just going to peel off really easily now. Cool. Make sure, pull in your valve out. Alright, so now we have 3 separate pieces. We have our wheel, we have our tube, and we have our tyre. You may choose to patch your tube, but that is a different lesson. For now, we're just going to use a new tube. What we're going to do now is we're going to inspect our tyre for the cause of our puncture. So what I've got both my hands inside the tyre, and I'm just running them around the inside, wanting to feel if there's anything that's going to prick my finger. Might be a bit of glass, a bit of metal. We just want to make sure if there's anything bedded in the tyre that it's not going to cause a puncture again straight away. Sometimes there might be nothing in there and whatever caused your puncture just went in and out, and sometimes there's a bit of glass stuck in there. So don't be too worried if you don't actually find anything. Alright, now we've got our new tube. We're gonna now pump it up. So we just want to pump it up enough so it's got some shape. We're using a foot pump here because we're in the workshop. You may have one of these at home, but if you're doing this on the side of the road or on a trail, you'll probably have to do this with a smaller hand pump. So it just takes a little bit more effort. And we're just going to pump the tube up just to give it a little bit of shape. That's plenty there. What we do next is we're going to put our tyre back on the wheel. So to start off, we just want to put one side of the tyre back in the wheel. So I'm just going to lean it against me here. And you sort of just want to pop it back in. There's no one way to do this. There we are. Now I'm going to stand it back up. And I want to do is I want to find the spot where the valve goes in. That's just over here. We're going to take our tube and we're going to pop the valve through that hole. And this handy little thing here, we're going to screw it back on just very lightly. It still wants to be able to move around a little bit. And I'll just show you here what's facing me. Is I'm just pushing the tube between the tyre and the rim.
Okay.
Now we're going to put this side of the tyre wall and seat that inside the rim. So we're going to need to use our tyre levers again. So you want to start seating it by the valve. And we're just using the lever to help tuck the tyre into the rim. You're going to get to this point where it becomes a little bit tricky to get that last little bit in. Then you want to grab the second tyre lever. Or what I like to do is to take one lever, pop it in the middle, and you want to put the scoop side facing away from you to the rim. Put that in the center of the area where you're having that tricky bit, and that helps you just pop it in. And sometimes you play a bit of a game of tag of you pop it in one place and then it pops out somewhere else. But there we go, that's all in now. Now I'm going to pump the tyre back up. Alright, and during this process, we're going to also seat the tyre properly as well. So we'll talk about that more in a couple of seconds once I've got the pump on. Alright, so as I'm pumping this up, you might hear a couple of popping noises. That's just the tyre seating itself in the rim properly. So I'll let you know when I hear one. There was a little one. And I'm pumping this tyre up to 40 psi. Oh, there was another one. 40 psi is what we recommend for most of the bikes at our store. Because this is a Presta valve tube, as we're just going to finish tightening that up. Pop the cap back on. And those popping noises that we heard before, telling us that the tyre was seating itself properly, we just want to do a visual check on that. So if I look around the side of the rim, I don't want to be able to see any of the inside of the rim. We want the tyre pressed nice and firmly against it. So I'm just going to look at the side walls on both sides. This one's great. Alright, now it's time to put the wheel back on the rest of your bike. So the first thing you want to line up is you want to make sure the rotor is on the same side as the rotor on the back wheel. And then I'm going to slide this in. So I want to be gentle and make sure the rotor is going inside the caliper and I'm not getting any resistance. Now I'm going to put the skewer back in. An easy way to make sure you're doing it in the right way is just like the rotor, just match it to the other wheel.
Make sure that you're in the top gear before you try and do this. So the chain should be wrapped around the smallest cog on the outside. Yeah. When you're ready to go, push the derailleur backwards on that pivot and then pull the wheel out. Viola. And repairing the puncture is the same as Leora did before with the front wheel. And then we just need to put the wheel back on the bike. We know that the bike is in top gear, we can push the derailleur back and then put the chain around the smallest cog. Gently let it drop in here, making sure that the rotor on the other side is going in between the brake pads on the caliper into the dropouts. And
should have all the knowledge you need on how to fix a front puncture or a rear puncture. The last thing to do is set your bike right side up, and then you're ready to ride. So same as before, we're just gonna put the front wheel between two of our hands and just lever it over the handlebars. Then we're gonna walk onto the other side of the bike and pick it up, and we're ready to go.